Hi, you're listening into Gay and Grey Montreal's 6-part series called Queer Elders Sharing, funded by le Bureau de lutte contre la homophobie et la transphobie. Our 2S LGBTQIA+ guests shared how they overcame instances of homophobia and transphobia to become who they are today. We spoke on Tiohtià:ke, also known as Montreal. It's part of the unceded traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Kanien'kehá:ka, who are one of the founding nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. My name is Sarah Jesmer. I'm a queer Canadian American. I didn't see many queer or trans people growing up around me, and this series helps me feel like I have a place in something bigger. Today we're going to hear from Kat Love. She's an author, artist, a psychotherapist, among many other things. She speaks about self-love, about healing family wounds, and about her hope in community. Let's meet Kat. Sous-titres français disponible sur notre chaîne YouTube. Hey, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah? And Kat's okay with you, or Katharine? Can you tell me?
Kat is great.
Okay, great. How would you describe yourself to another person? Is there anything else that you want people to know about your personality? Like, is there anything like name, pronouns, anything else that you want to share?
She, her is
Okay.
my preferred pronouns.
Yeah.
And I think that you covered everything.
Okay.
Oh, I have 2 kids, so
Yeah.
we'll add that, and 1 grandchild.
What are their names?
Rose is the grandchild. Emily and Victoria are my daughters.
How old are your daughters, can I ask?
You can.
Yeah.
30, 31, and 4.5.
Okay, awesome. That's amazing. Why do you want to be part of this series? Why are you part of this series today?
This series spoke to me because I felt very alone in my queerness, in my difference. And even though now it's a different era, I think everyone who is different carries that difference with them. And I want to help maybe even one person to feel less alone.
What does the word queer mean to you?
I just wrote a poem about the word queer and how much I love it. I like the sound of it, and I like the meaning, which is just different. Queer to me is proudly different.
Mm-hmm. What drew you to make that poem?
I love words, and I was thinking about queer because I knew I was coming here and what that word meant to me and how I've always embraced that word before it became popular. I would also characterize myself, call myself lesbian, but that feels too small. And queer is just all-encompassing of just multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
So and I just like the sound of the word.
Mm-hmm.
As a writer, there's certain words I just like the sound of, and queer just appeals.
Mm-hmm. Did you always know that you were a lesbian?
I did when I was about 4, or however old I was in nursery. I came home and I told my mom that I was going to marry Miss K. She slapped me on my face and said, "Never say that again." And I never said it again. So I always knew, and then I just put it aside.
Would you say that you're putting it aside now?
I would not say I'm putting it aside now. I'm saying I'm embracing all of whom I choose to love.
Yeah. How did you get to that point then? From putting it aside then and to now saying that you're embracing it and you're celebrating it?
It was a difficult journey. In my family, speaking one's truth was not prized, and I spoke up. I spoke truth to power, and I was already vilified, and gay was not something that anyone talked about. And I just felt I had so many other issues, and I wanted to be like everyone wants to be loved and accepted. And so I knew that this was not something I should share. And so I just buried it. And it wasn't like I didn't like boys. And I could have a boyfriend because that's what you did. So I did. And then years passed, and I was dating a man, famous psychic, and we were in Toronto at a coffee shop outside. And he said, "Kat, I think you like women." And I was immediately horrified. And because I was so disconnected from that part of me. And I said, "No, that's not true." And he said, "It is true. Your pupils get bigger when a woman walks by." And so I couldn't look at that for another 10 years. And then I woke up one day and I just felt that my life was just not working, and that I had to look at why it wasn't working. And so I started to unfold all the layers that I had hidden my desire for women.
Horrified is such a strong word to use during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I buried it until I moved into a condo. And in my building, there was a woman who I just liked so much. But again, I couldn't put the word lesbian or gay to me. I just thought I liked her. And then one day it just clicked. Oh my God, I actually like her. I don't even think she was gay. I just liked her. And so I decided to go to my local dépanneur and look up Playboy magazine, because that was my only, this is 40 years ago, there was no icons of queerness out there.
Yeah, and like it means so much to see other queer people and to hear the stories of other queer people.
That's why I'm here. And then by happenstance or fate, I was looking for a painter to paint my condo. And this beautiful dyke walked in. And in those days, in the old days, there was no internet or video. So it was just her card that I happened to find in Rona in the hardware store. And the moment she walked in, I was just like, literally the light went on. And she showed me samples of paint. And I said to her, I'll call her Joan. And I said to her, Joan, how I choose color is I have to hold your hand. And this was so out of character for me. And I have to feel the vibration of the paint. So she's like, okay. And I did it, and I just felt changed. And then we had this torrid affair.
Wow.
And so that's how I knew.
Incredible story. What was the emotion as you were understanding that, as that light turned on, as you were feeling these things?
Because I grew up in dysfunction and abuse, I thought that I was unable to feel passion because of my history of abuse, because I didn't mind sleeping with men, but there was no fireworks. There was no moments of passion for me. But the morning after the first night, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, everyone will know because I am different now. So it didn't last, but it was a beautiful thing while it lasted.
It's like a noun. It's like this feeling that like, yeah, like the memory itself, you know, like it doesn't have to go for years and years, but it's a memory that like is a very tangible noun, that memory.
Yeah, I will always remember that and be grateful, even though, you know, it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you shared these things with the people around you, as you understood that this is something that, well, when did this become something that you wanted to share with other people?
Once. So Joan and I were together for about a year. And again, in those days, it was to go to a lesbian bar. You had to go like to a hidden venue and you have to show ID, and it was very illicit. It was very sexy, I thought, but it was very illicit. And so I knew I wanted to make sure that this is what I wanted before I told my family. And after we broke up, because she wouldn't come out, I said, I can't live my life hidden. And so that's when I told my family, and it was not well received. And I wasn't surprised, but I was saddened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Like it's a very important thing to like receive a response that like is a accepting response, or like even a loving response from family.
Yeah. It would be, I had never received a loving response before, so I wasn't particularly excited about a loving response, but the hated response took me back.
It takes such courage to get to that point, though.
You say that? I didn't think it was particularly courageous. I just thought it was, this is something I had to do. And as a therapist, there's ways of coping with trauma. And one is to flee, which was not my way. One was to fawn, again, not my way. And my way was always to fight. And so I had always fought with my family. And so this felt more of the same, but it had far-reaching consequences of them telling me that either I would be straight and with them or gay and without them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are some of the things that helped you through that moment?
I wish I could tell you that there was something that helped me through the moment, but I didn't have anything. What I had was coping mechanisms, and I used food to cope. So food was my best friend. Food and books. Those were my coping mechanisms. I didn't really there was no groups I could join.
What were some of your favorite parts of growing up as a young queer person in Toronto during the time?
It was so fun and freeing because we just, it was very, now you go to Toronto and you can be queer anywhere. But then it was in the gay village, and there was, again, this bar where you walked up like 35 stairs, and it was in back of a commercial business, so you had to kind of find it. And it was just this secret world that was now open to me. And we would just dance, and I was wild, and I would just dance on tables all night, and just had fun, and it was just lovely to find my people.
Yeah.
as I'm getting older, I understand the value of family in a different way than I understood before.
How so?
So I came from dysfunction and abuse. It wasn't like I was close to, like some queer people were super close to their family, come out and then they're abandoned. I was always the weird one. So it wasn't that difficult. And I had always held that one day I would be saved by my partner, whoever she would be, and their family. And they would take me in, and then I would have family. But what I feel now and see is, for me, that chosen family isn't the same. I feel the healthier I get, I feel now the loss of my family, my entire family except for my daughters. And my ex-wife is my ex for a reason. And so I love that we brought 2 children into the world, but it's important for me to work on myself every day. And it's important for me to surround myself with people who do the same. And she is not of the same mind. And so we're family because we share these children and we celebrate together. Family, Thanksgiving, my birthday will be together. But I'm mourning the loss of my entire family. Because even if I were I had this fantasy when I was young. So when I was 25, when I was your age, you can meet somebody and their mom would be, 45 or 50. But now at 65, I'm not going to meet someone who has a family. But even if I did, it's their family, it's not my family. And so I'm in the process of discovering what that feels like.
Yeah. In the roles of family that you've chosen to step into in your life, mother, is that a term that you use?
Mother. Yes.
Grandmother as well?
Bubby.
All right. So as a mother and as Bubby.
Yes.
When did you feel like you wanted to step into these roles and sort of create a family, like healthy family bonds, or family bonds is however you want to put them? When did you make that decision for yourself?
I always knew I wanted kids. I never, probably looking back, because I knew I liked women, but I couldn't put that into the slot of marriage. I was never really about the marriage. It was always about kids. So I always wanted to have kids and have a family since I had such a broken one. And when I met my ex-wife, my feeling was that we could have a family together more than her and I as partners. It was more of, I think she'd be great to bring up children with.
Yeah, and you still wanted that type of family connection.
Yes. What's important to me and why I want to be here with you and share, because it took me so long to understand what self-love is, and it's important to me. It's not about mantras or affirmations. It's about loving myself whole. It's about hearing the voice in my head that says, no one will love you, and correcting that and saying, that's not true. It's how I eat good food every day, how I take care of myself, who I allow in my life, what books I read, what I choose to watch, how I participate in the world.
So when you heard the title series, that this podcast series was going to be about sharing stories that people have gone through in the past to speak to internal, external homophobia, internal, external transphobia. What did you think about that topic?
It spoke to me because I've experienced both external homophobia and also internal. The wound has been much bigger in the internal. And what I said, which dovetails with the fighting way of coping, was I didn't care. And so when I would go to a new physician and she would ask me about birth control, and I said, I'm gay, and she said, well, you don't look gay, and I would always get very emotional and say, this is what gay looks like. And I felt that was my job, to educate and fight. When my family said, you're out of our family, I said at the time, I don't care, because you're horrible people. But internally, it was devastating. And so the way to repair that is to educate the external people, but not with fighting, just quiet explanation. And the internal homophobia by just, as I'm doing, placing my hand on my heart and just telling myself that I'm enough and I deserve to be here.
That's absolutely true. Can you define, maybe for listeners who may not know, what the difference between internal and external homophobia or internal or external transphobia is? Like, can you maybe put words to the difference between the two?
Sure. Well, I can't speak to transphobia since I'm not trans,
Of
but
course, yeah.
as far as homophobia, my daughters went to the Waldorf school in Toronto, which is German and very homophobic. And there was a big campaign to get us out of the school because they didn't want gay parents in the school. And so I had to educate the school about what it meant. And it was, my wife was not, she was just too afraid of everything and didn't want to do it. So I had to go in. I chose to go in and have meetings with the board and meetings with the teacher, talking about what it meant so that my kids wouldn't be harmed. And so that's the external, and the internal is not feeling like you belong because you're different than the norm.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like courage, though, to speak to, like, you spoke a little bit in the past, or I said coming out to your family was a courageous move, and you said that it was a necessary move.
Yes.
Do you think of yourself as a courageous person as you are standing in these situations? These are situations in which require such bravery to, like, stand in front of such like I don't know, danger, real danger.
I didn't think that I was ever afraid of anything because it just came naturally to me to fight, to speak up. And so it didn't feel brave. It felt organic that I needed to speak truth to power, and that this was wrong to harm my kids or any other kids. And so it just felt the right thing to do. For me, the brave thing is a solo journey, an internal journey to look at my own wounds and try to heal them and feel them before I can heal them. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. I feel the most whole. I feel the most accepting. At the same time, the more that I come back into my body, the more I inhabit my body, the more I can feel the grief that I haven't allowed myself to feel. So it's an ongoing journey. What's important to me now is finding community and reaching out to community, hence part of why I'm here.
If you had to share something, whether that be from something that you wrote or are writing in the Lesbian Chronicles, or something that's been brought up at this discussion that we've had together, if you had to share something with a young person who might be listening in and they didn't have, like, they were also going to their dépanneur looking for any queer literature that they can, what would you say to them as a piece of advice?
You belong. You deserve to be here. You have a voice. And the way through is the way in. And don't give up. Just keep trying your best to love yourself.
Well, I want to thank you, Kat, for being here and for sharing everything that you went through.
You're very welcome. I'm so happy to have been here, and you are a fabulous interviewer.
I think you're a very courageous person. I wanted you to know that.
Thank you.